Welcome to On the Chain.
So John Deaton put out a poll that wrapped up a couple days ago. And so this one was in 2023, the SEC v. Ripple case. 59.2% say settle. 40% says goes to verdict. So we got more people now falling on the settle side. And so John Deaton did continue his comment here. He said, I'll give my 2023 prediction after the poll. Plus, before giving it, I'm reading a couple of Judge Torres' other summary judgment rulings to try and gain some limited insight, emphasis on the word limited. Now, Chip, before we really dig into some of the opinion that Deaton had or has on all of this, what are your thoughts of the poll outcome so far?
Yeah, I think if you go back to the poll, I think it confirms a lot of what people are hoping happen. I think it's, if you were asking people, what do you think is going to happen? Like, what does your gut tell you, and what do you want to happen? I think that's more about what people want to happen. They want it to be over. We all do. And we've said many times that would be a great bet to lose. But honestly, it seems like it seemed like it's been framed for a long time. You don't spend 2 years going through that, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I think we'll just settle. I mean, would I love to see it? Absolutely. I think everybody would. I think everybody in the chat would love to see that. But there's so many things that don't make sense and don't point to a type of a settlement. But you know what? Anything's possible. And hey, if a settlement comes up in mid-January, we'll be like, hey, that's awesome. We were wrong. And we'll see what that settlement ends up looking like. But there's just so much about it that seems odd. But I was shocked by that, Jeff. I'll be honest with you. I was expecting it to be a little bit lower. I wasn't quite expecting it to be almost 60% of people. It just took me by surprise.
Yeah, I think so too. And John might have been a little bit surprised with the outcome as well. Will the case settle? After 18,000 votes, the poll shows 59% of the people believe a settlement will happen. To be honest, 59% is higher than I would have guessed, and that's John Deaton. A year ago, I believed a settlement was likely because the SEC wouldn't want the Hinman emails made public. Then he gets in a little more. It was my opinion that if the emails were extremely valuable to Ripple and extremely damaging to the SEC would settle before turning over the emails, drafts, and comments. Obviously, that didn't happen. Instead, Ripple has now cited the Hinman emails in its opposition brief. So here's the one point of settlement, which John is really highlighting here, was the SEC trying to save face by not releasing certain emails, and they didn't want certain facts out there. Now the facts are all kind of coming out. The SEC fought for 2 years attacking Ripple, attacking all sales of XRP on the secondary market. If we listen and go back to what Brad Garlinghouse had said, and we've reviewed this before, his primary objective after he's going through all of this wasn't just the defense of Ripple, but it was, also defending XRP as the asset, because they're attacking it, not just what Ripple sold, but on the secondary market, and vis-a-vis that, protecting the entire crypto industry. So Ripple is on the forefront with the SEC and their enforcement litigation strategy, trying to establish some sort of a foothold of control over crypto, and they're on the front lines right now. So Chip, at this point, so it's interesting, and this is Deaton's first thing, is that had they turned it over, or if they tried not to turn it over, but that's all over and done with now, 2 years in.
Yeah, it's hard to really, there's so much going on with this case, right? There's so many different facets of it. But those emails, again, and he does get into it in the thread, and it's really nothing different than John has said, when he's been on the chain too, that he's talked about how significant these emails and when these emails would come into play and how they might play a part.
So John goes on, although the SEC asked the judge to seal the documents, if the judge considers the Hinman speech emails in her decision in any regard, the emails and documents become judicial documents, and the judge will order the documents to be filed on the public docket with a few redactions. So he goes on here. There's a good chance, however, Judge Torres does not rely on the Hinman emails or drafts in a ruling and therefore allows them sealed. Judge Torres has implied that the Hinman emails, drafts, and comments are relevant only for a purpose of cross-examination impeachment. And then he continues here. Of course, she may have ruled that way before reading the emails herself. The emails are now part of the official record and have been cited to by Ripple. If we review the redactions in context, we can surmise a lot. And so here's the opposition brief with some of the commentary, with some of the redacted note here. And so it's interesting now because, as we get into it, what does the SEC at this point have to gain from settlement? They've lost cases, and typically they'll put a huge amount of attention on the fact that they're fighting and litigating a case. And when they win, it's all over media. When they lose, it just kind of gets pushed to the back pages somewhere. No one ever talks about their losses. And, and that's it. So this situation, there's so much more at stake, with all of this. And the SEC at this point, to me, if they settle, it's a net loss.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this before. A settlement is a loss. If they settle, they lose. Even if they split the baby, even if they say early fines for there were securities at one point, but now it's decentralized. Well, then guess what? They've just given clear guidance to the market saying that, okay, and it was brought up that the fact that, well, they might have sealed it. I mean, they can seal these, but what good would that do Ripple if they seal it and they say like, oh, we've settled? Well, what were the settlement terms? Oh, we've sealed that. Well, if there's no clarity involved around XRP, and that's really as far as all the software and the products that Ripple creates all rely heavily on XRP. Why would they do that, right? It seems kind of an oddity there. It seems really bizarro. So, yeah, that was a long Deaton thread. I don't know if you want to go through all of it, but I think
there's a couple other good points here.
Yeah, I'll bring those points up.
So here's one as you get into the redaction of it. In the redaction, 2 words appear redacted. When you read the entire paragraph in context, though, it's safe to say one of the words is confusion or speculation. The director of trading and markets, Brett Redfern, replied that the Hinman speech would cause more speculation. Would cause the SEC, so I surmised it was more confusion, but Neil demonstrated it is more likely to say more speculation. They kind of get into it. In the redaction, there's a second redacted word from Redfern's email. It reads, Redfern deliberately recommended giving industry participants, presumably to give the agency more room to maneuver. In context, it reads something like opaqueness or vagueness. Then he goes on, all the 4 pages above are included in Ripple's opposition brief. In Ripple's final brief, its reply brief, it only refers one time to the Hinman emails. Ripple's reply cites the emails because of the SEC's attempt to have the court adopt strict vertical commonality, putting it all in there. Man,
Jeff, before you get into that, though, I want to. So Neil, there was an update from Neil too, that John Deaton also retweeted out there, and it says this. John Deaton pointed to this other Neil Hartner comment that said, and there was a suggestion that the second redaction is also confusion, which is an exact fit. This is what it looks like with the edits overlaid on top of the original. So if we look at that, there you go, market confusion, deliberate, and then there's confusion. So that also works too, but it's something along those lines. But who knows? It's redacted. It's redacted, and that really changes the context of what this may actually say. But it's interesting to note that that word confusion works in there as well.
Yeah, this is, it's really amazing. Thank God for John Deaton and many of the other attorneys out there that have been analyzing, all the commentary. James Filan has put up a ton. John Deaton, helping and really standing to help protect and be, have 75 or 76,000 XRP holders, have a voice in all of this. And to be able to come back and explain what's happening. And this is, a perfect representation. When he was on the show with us, Chip, for the second anniversary of the SEC v. Ripple, it really is amazing the appreciation that we heard coming from other YouTubers to both Jeremy Hogan and John Deaton. And John Deaton, out there on the front lines, really helping. And man, this whole case would unfold a lot differently, I believe, if everyone would have just sat quiet.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.